Today's daf is daf. This is Wednesday's daf Kufir Gimel. Just a couple of things. We learned before about the Toish Nevelos of the Shukah, that you should even strip the veil in the marketplace, and you wouldn't need to get the help of other people. We learned that a few days ago. Or we had other expressions in our Psachim, Psheit Nevelos of the Shukah, and so on. The Rambam uses that. This is Moshe Rabbeinu's grandson, who gave an excuse why he was working in a base avodah zarah, because my Zayda said, take any job, and even avodah zarah. What Moshe Rabbeinu meant was avodah shazara loy, even though it's meaning and everything else, do that work. So the Rambam uses that as a proof that a Rav and a Talmud Chacham is not allowed to get any stipends or take any money from anyone to support themselves to learn Torah. You have to have a job. Because you're supposed to have a job and so on. The Beis Yosef there and the Tashbats and many others of Yaakov, they argue the Rambam, and I guess some of them write a big kunst. The Rambam had a brother who was very wealthy who supported him, and then when the brother his ship got capsized, so then the Rambam became a doctor. So a big kunst, you're telling other people don't learn. If you want to become a Rambam, the only way to do it is you have to be supported by the community. So in Shulchan Aruch itself, it talks about that, you're allowed to get support. But still, says Shulchan Aruch, if you could have a job, then fine. The problem is only, it says, which means this is a very demeaning job. And yet there's a din that Dayanim are not allowed to, the B'kei Yosef Paskins, Shulchan Aruch and others, a Dayan is not allowed to do work in public because it's demeaning it's not covered Talmud Chacham. So how do you reconcile these two? Is there someone to say there's a difference between a dayan and, let's say, a Rosh Hashiva or a Rav? A dayan needs authority. A dayan needs to be respected. And if they see that a dayan does a demeaning job, they lose respect. So therefore, that's true. Mashiach is talking about everybody else, including a Talmud Chacham, including a Rav and everything else. You don't have to have that kind of authority as a dayan. So a dayan now do a malach in public, according to some. But what the Gemara says, Psheit, in the Bava Basra Daf is talking about everybody else. It's actually a very interesting discussion in Halach and Shulchan Aruch in Yeridea. If a rabbi is allowed to accept gifts, or some say that you're allowed. The Taz says the most beautiful thing. The Taz says, we'll finish with this. We'll go back to the Gemara. Taz says there's nothing wrong. He disagrees with the Rambam and everything else, and Psheit and Bava Basra and all that. He says there's nothing wrong with a Rav or a Yeshiva as getting paid and taking money from people until he becomes an usher gadol. Once he becomes an usher and he has enough that he can live the rest of his life, he has no right to take any more money. I guess so. Like by Kohen Gadol, so the same thing over here. That's what the Taz said. I don't know if they were mekayim by the Taz. Maybe he was trying to hit his community. I don't know if it worked, but he actually had a hard life. Sorry? Yeah, okay, but you can't collect till you retire. That's right. That's something else. Don't take tzedakah. It's not the same. It means is even worse than that. Saying it's demeaning for you. Yeah, do a job that is totally, Bursky, Alma Tzadok Lebursky, do a Bursky job. Become a tanner, even though it smells and everything else, and you putter from the regel, do anything you can. Just finishing off the tour of Shulchan Aruch. It's an amazing tour, right in the beginning, right in the beginning, where it talks about Asay Shabbat Chachal Yimor and Beyedev. You should have an ordinary Shabbos on the bris. So the tour writes that he asked his father, someone like me that has mamish nothing, does it apply to me as well? And I always thought the Rosh is supposed to be a rich man. I think it was in a way he was hitting to his father. Send me somebody. Did he get the message? He told him, yeah, even you, I say Shabbat Chachal. Or maybe with the answer, he sent him a check as well. Okay, let's learn. We're up to the Kuf Yud Gimel. So we're up to right in the middle of the page of Kuf Yud Gimel. We're continuing to learn the hierarchy of Yerushas. right? So we have, if a person dies, the first one that collects is their son, and if not the son, then if the son, let's say, died, grandchildren, great grandchildren, everything that comes from Tzetzoyev. If there's no son, then you go to the daughter, and then the daughter and all her things. If there's nothing, if there's no descendants, then you go up. So you go down, then you go up. Always that's how you go, down, up, and then sideways. Then you go to the father. If the father is no longer alive, then the father is called mishmash, passes it down to his children, which are the siblings of the brother. So the siblings of the person who passed away, brother or sister, doesn't matter. The person who passed away. So the brothers, they yashi first. If there's no, if the brother died, big machlek is Rashbam and Toises. According to Rashbam, it then goes to the sister. According to Toises, what are you talking about? First you go down. You always go down, and then you go sideways, or again you go up. So according to Toises, which is the halacha, the brother, if the brother is not alive, then you go downwards to his children. If there's no children there, then you go sideways to the sister. Rashbam holds brother, sister, then you go back to the brother's children, which is interesting why they're not. Toises uses a lashon. I am a famous lashon. Agav churfei la'ayimba or lo'idokba. Because he's so sharp, sometimes you have, I don't know if you ever read Pulpulum, sometimes they get so involved in the Pulpul, then you look at a class cash, the whole thing doesn't make sense because it's that whole thing, but you got so involved in your Pulpul that you didn't even think about it. I'll just mention, to me, now could be I'm totally wrong here, but I'll just say my own thing. In Hilchos Sukkot, there's a big shaklatai, the Einik Yontif brought this whole thing, that when it rains, right? When it rains, you potter. Call I know ever since the sukkah when it rains, you call the hedyet, and but what do you call it? But Chassidim, Michal Lozer, advocates have all Chassidim who sit in the sukkah when it rains. So the Einik Yom Tov says it's usher mahatoida to sit in the sukkah when it rains. Not that you don't have to, you're not allowed to. And what's his word? Because the Gemara in Sukkah Daf Tes says Chag la Hashem, and we learn now that a sukkah is like a korban chagiga. I don't remember his mother, but a sukkah like a korban chagiga. Just like a korban, you don't have any hana from. You cannot have any hana from. Just like a korban chagiga, you don't have any hana from. You cannot have any hana from a sukkah. So if you're doing the mitzvah of sukkah, so the mitzvah therefore takes away the problem of hana. That's what the mitzvah is. The mitzvah is to be there. But when there's not doing a mitzvah because it's raining, you don't have hana. Oh, that's it. Okay, one second. So he goes his whole pulpul. There's a Taz, a famous Taz. The Taz says that even though by korban chagiga you don't have any hana, but by sukkah when you say you don't have hana, it means only hana that there's a chsara to the sukkah. Taking a piece of wood and clean your teeth out with it or something. Then you're hurting the sukkah, impacting the sukkah. But otherwise, it's not a problem. And everyone goes to town. You have no idea how many acharayim talk about it. And you sit and think to yourself, what hana do you have singing the sukkah? So somebody once told me, I remember years ago, I asked her, every time I learned since I was a bocher, it always bothered me. So a guy told me, a literature, they says, no, when you're sitting in the sukkah, the schach is holding back the rain. If it wouldn't be for the schach, it would rain a lot more. And now that the schach is, so you're having some hana. So I told him then, the Gemara in Bava Basra tells us that if you're muhzik, I have a right to have your rain from your roof coming to me, collecting the rain. If it drops, right, I can have it. I don't have a chazaka for shuvchi, for which is that that the water should come only in 4 or 5 places. Because when the water comes in 4 or 5 places, or it comes down, not just drops, it comes down in a force. So when you have leaves, what it does is it collects the water, and then you have certain parts of the sukkah where it comes down much more. So that could be worse. That could be worse. Number one. Number two is the leaves make it worse because it continues. When rain stops, it stops. There, it continues another hour or two. It keeps on dripping and dripping and dripping. Especially, I remember in New York, we used to use the evergreen schach. It was impossible to eat because the water just kept on dripping into your food and everything else. Yeah, and all that. Yeah. What I'm just saying is, sometimes, in my humble opinion, agav churfa, you get so involved in your pulpul side of it that it's the practical side. Ask anybody since looking at the range how geschmack it is. Even though you read some of the chassidus for them, they say why you're allowed to sit in the sukkah in the rain is because hametz diet. If it bothers you that you're sitting in the rain, then you should get out of the sukkah. But if it doesn't bother you because you're so excited about doing a mitzvah, then forget, you should be sitting in the sukkah. That's what some of the svarim say, no chassidus svarim. And or if you'll have more tzar sitting in the house because you're denied doing a mitzvah. The only time Shlomo says that you have to mitzvah, you walk out of the sukkah is that there you'll be relieved from your tzar. But if it'll add to your tsar, then faket, stay here, and all these other little things there. But still, let's get back to talking about it. Now let's get back to your. If we have time when they were talking about how do people then organize to give a Yerusha to their daughter, when we learn clearly here that with Mokum Ben is the Bas doesn't Yashin. So how do you get around that in halacha? There's two different ways, but we have time, we'll talk about it. Says the Gemara further. Right in the middle of the page. Amar Rabbi Yechon, Amar Rabbi Yanai, Amar Rebbe. Rabbi Yechon, right in the middle of the page, Kuf Yud Gimel. Rabbi Yechon said, name of Rabbi Yanai in the name of Rebbe. Umotabo, they bring it, Mashmeid, Rabbi Shur ben Koch, the name of Shur ben Koch. Before we go further, there's a long tesis here. We have a few places in the Shas, a short tesis, but this is a long one. Rashi writes, who is this Rabbi Shur ben Koch? Not that we don't have Rashi here, but Rashi in other Masechtas. Rashi says, who is Rabbi Shur ben Koch? Rabbi Shua, the son of Rabbi Akiva. Because Rabbi Akiva is called the Baldy. Because Ben Azai, who was actually Akiva's son-in-law for a short time, Ben Azai said that nobody outsmarted me except except this Baldy. So he was in a moment of I guess being facetious or whatever it is. So he referred to his father-in-law, yeah, as a Baldy. So therefore, Rabbi Shimon Koch must, and we know that Akiva had a son called Rabbi Yeshua, as it says in the Medrash. So therefore, we say that this is Rabbi Akiva's son. Rabbeinu Tam flabbergasted. How would you call the Nasi Hador Rabbi Akiva or the biggest tzaddik in the door Baldy? You just can't imagine. Could Ben Azai use that expression? It just doesn't make sense. And by the way, Tosfos then says at the end, which I never saw in the Alba, doesn't say, that when Ben Azai says Chutzman HaKerach Hazeh, nobody outsmarted me except this Baldy, he wasn't talking about Rabbi Akiva at all. Doesn't say Rabbi Akiva's name, just says Kerach. And we decided it's Rabbi Akiva because Rabbi Akiva is the greatest man. Tosfos brings from somewhere else that was actually Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. That Ben Azai said the only one who outsmarted me is Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, which don't know the mocker that. That's what Tosfos right here. Anyway, Tosfos says Kerach was the name of a person, like Koidach the name of a person. Karch, the name of a person, nothing to do with Baldy, nothing to do with Rabbi Akiva, nothing to do with anything else. I think that's a long thesis to work out who is Rabbi Shimon Karch was. Very interesting cheshbon he makes it. Anyway, let's continue. What did he say? Bottom line, he said, "Menayin lebal." That we know like this: when if children inherit their father, and let's say anybody owes outstanding debts to the father, they all split it in the inheritance. But when it comes to a b'choir, a firstborn, a b'choir only gets a double portion from what's muhzik, what the father has in his control. But biro, let's say somebody owes the father $100, the b'choir, but eventually after the father passes away, they get paid out. The b'choir does not get double portion. So he wants to know, is the husband entitled to receive a Yerusha to his wife? That didn't happen yet. It was only Ro. In other words, the wife passed away, previously the husband, but her parents are still alive. So she's a lone daughter. So she didn't yashin yet her father, but one day she will yashin, and that's called a Ro. Does the husband get that, or that goes straight to the grandchildren? So that's what he wants to know. I don't know husband gets a Ro like a Mosik. It says, we bring the same sukkim we learned yesterday, but now that we've established that by Pinchas and by Yoyer, that they had properties that father didn't have. Now that we've established that a husband is entitled to the wife's properties, so probably it came from the mother, and yet it didn't go to the husband, it went straight to them. Why did it go straight to them? Must have been when the mother died, she didn't inherit them yet because she was only Ro. Her parents were still alive in both cases. And therefore, it went to Pinchas, it went to Yoyer. And the husband does not collect in the row like a muhsik. Says the Gemara, was gu hoyle des Yoyer by Hila. He had esim b'shosh adim barzagil. He had 23 cities. Menayin lo Yoyer shloy hoyle is good. Where do you find that Yoyer had something that Guv himself didn't have? El Malama teaches you shenas is Guv isha. Before we said maybe Yoyer himself married a woman, but now that's what we were trying to prove that a husband yashins his wife or not. But now that we've established a husband does yashin his wife, so go back and learn normal Pshat and Pasuk. The husband married a woman that she's a heiress, from a very wealthy family. She passed away while the people who were going to bequeath to her were still alive. Her parents were still alive. And the Yersha Yoyer, when her parents died, it didn't go to the husband. It went straight to the grandchildren. Why did you go to the husband? Because at the time she died, it was only a Ro. It wasn't a Muhzik. So Zarai, the husband does not get Ro in Muhzik. And the same thing by another Rai from the laws of Benar Mace. By Yikburu, same thing. And he was buried in Gibber's Pinchas Benai. That means it belonged to Pinchas. How did it belong to Pinchas and not to didn't belong to Lazar? Menayim Pinchas lahoy Lazar. Melamed teaches you should not Lazar. He married a woman, Umeisa b'chayim, and she predeceased her parents. Umeisa, when her parents died, it didn't go to Elazar, it went straight to Pinchas, the Yosha Pinchas. I need a second pasuk. Okay, I understand. Read the first pasuk. Because you can argue the chitem Yoyer that having nasiv itza, maybe Yoyer himself married the woman. How do you know it was Elazar? The way we learned before. Maybe Yoyer married a woman, but Umeisa she died, and he ashed her. Pashit. What do you have to make a whole pulpul for? Say that Yoy married a rich lady, and then and she passed away, and Yoy Yashin. That's why Elazar has no chelik in it. What do you have to go say Elazar married? So that's why I bring a second part. Elazar and Aaron Mace. Tell you Elazar about Aaron Mace, and we said before, even in Tanakh, and even though it's a story, we're not going to give you details that are totally unnecessary unless you want to teach you some kind of halach, which is an amazing thing. Because the Gemara always asks, how do you learn things from Yecheskel if it doesn't say in the Torah, and time to say how if you don't say in the Torah? Here we are learning dinim from what? Not because it's in Mefurish and Tanakh. The fact that they're telling me a story that seems to a few words they are redundant, that in itself teaches me a whole halacha. That's how we know that husband yashins his wife. Sorry? Yeah, but we remember the three. Yeah, remember the psukim the three psukim we argued maybe it's the son. Who said it goes to the husband? So we had to use a Tanakh to prove it goes to the husband. The din that the husband, if he holds him Torah. In halacha, the big machlekes that I'm on the right, but this is Yerusha's a Baal Torah mid Rabban. Remember, Torah is a machlekes. So this Gemara is going according to the. If you learn from Tanakh, which is what it seems from this Gemara here, not from we have one opinion of Yara Shaisa, klar, or the She'erai, whatever it was. The other opinion that learns from Rabbi Shmuel, who learns from all these other things. If you learn Tanakh at the end, ultimately from Tanakh, then the machlekes if Tanakh is considered divrei Kabbalah is divrei Torah dummy or three opinions. Torah, Rabbanan, or somewhere in between. We had in our Megillah right in the beginning there. By Tveria, why do you read Megillah today? There's a famous Bas Yosef in Shulchan Aruch in Hilchos Purim. The Bas Yosef in Shulchan Aruch in Hilchos Purim, in Tafsir Tzadik Zayin, which is a simon that nobody learns. It's after all the laws of Purim. He talks there about Avelis, and he says there that an oinen should eat meat on Purim. I know he's not eat meat to drink wine and drink wine. Why? Because he says the lashon Yavai Asay Shel Rabbi Mahatoira. The doicha Asay that's only Shel Yavai. Purim Suda of meat and wine is Asay because it's Kadibra Kabbalah. So because it's from the Megillus Esther. So this Yosef in Shulchan use that lashon that better and Asay. I'm telling you what the Rosh says there. It's an amazing Yosef. And very few people see it because it's Tzadik Zayin. All the laws of Purim are up to Tzadik Vav, including Tzadik Vav. And this is an indus, Avelis who goes to that part. Like we never in yeshivas learn Moykat, we certain things you don't learn. Anyway. So the Gemara then says, the Chitema, you'll tell me the Nafla B'Zei Charamim. Maybe, like we said before, how do you know that by the Pinchas received it because of his wife, or because you tell me that it's his mother, but Eliezer didn't Yashin? Maybe he was a Kohen and he is Sei Charamim. That, they gave a Chelim to the Kohenim and he ended up with him. Amakra B'noi. Nachla Ru Eloi V'Yosha B'noi. It says in the Pasuk, give us Pinchas B'noi. So there's different ways of learning Pshat, but Chanan learns, Rashbam brings the second Pshat, that word B'nai is extra. Everyone knows Pinchas is Elazar's son. Just say, give us Pinchas, in the place of Pinchas. Why say B'nai? To tell you that the B'nai got it, and not the Baila. Not the Baila, even though Elazar the husband should have gotten it. In this case, he went to the B'nai. Why? Because it's only wrong. Beautiful Tesis here. Tesis asks a question. I'll just give it a beautiful Tesis. Tesis asks a question here. So it comes out that a son is stronger than a husband, than a father. A father from his wife only gets if she's muhsik. A son gets ro as well as muhsik. So a son should come before the father. When it comes, if a mother dies, who yashins? The din is when a mother dies, the husband yashins. Why? The son should yashin first. The son is more powerful. The son is entitled to ro, even though it's only potential, and the husband is only entitled to muhsik. Beautiful question. Taisa is a beautiful answer. Taisa says a husband. You got to learn inside. The Shleimer, the last 3 lines of Tesis, just a beautiful romantic Tesis. The Shleimer says Tesis. Kiva Shabal Einu Yoidish Machmas Kurva. Biologically, they're not related. So therefore, why is it the husband yashing the wife? Children, siblings, parents, they all yashing because they're all flesh and blood, right? So it's not kurva. Kurva, there's a hierarchy. There's a first, there's a second, third. So when it comes to husband, a husband and wife, they're one and the same. There's one person, and therefore, when the wife passes away, the husband is still part of her. He's not yashing as a closest relative to her because maybe a son is closer. Sure. He's yashing because it's her. Beautiful. So yeah, that's what the Rabbanon. So that's what Tekana is the Rabbanon. But if the Torah says that the son yashes, you can't usurp the Torah. You can't go against the Torah. I just think it's a beautiful word here. There's a Magen Avram in Hilchos Beichos Amos. Magen Avram asks a question. How can a woman say al brischa shechasamta b'v'sarei in benching? How can a woman say that, I'm thanking the Eibusher for the circumcision that you chasamta b'v'sareinu, that I had to make on my own body? Women don't circumcise. So actually, the Gemara Yevamos, we had one opinion that says isha commanded mihiludami. So maybe that means a woman, as if she's already, they don't have to go through the circumcision as if already they went through it. And maybe that's the nusach of benching. But Magen Avram says, that it's one of the same. And when she says, b'fsareinu, like it says right here, they're one person. So the Machzah Shekel asks over there, that's a grandson of Magen Avram. So what about a girl who's not married yet, a married woman? So he says there, every girl is married. Just because she doesn't know who the person is, you're still married. Just he didn't go through the motions. There's a man out there that's part of her and that she's part of him. And therefore you can say from the moment you're born, anyway, let's go back to it. Yeah, but exactly. But it's more than just an announcement. They're already there. Let's continue the Gemara. 2 dots at the bottom of the page. Ubnei achais, the children of the sisters. In other words, the mother had in the Rashbam and the Mishnah. I didn't tell you. Rashbam brings down. There's 2 different ways of understanding when it says bnei achais. The mother brother died and there was nobody else but the mother, or the mother's sister died and therefore she inherits. And but then he likes better the pshat the mother's brother died, because that then it fits in, not the halacha is any difference, but it fits better into the Mishnah. So the brother died, obviously didn't have any children, no other brothers, only sister or sisters. So the sister now yashes and it goes to her children. If she's not alive, it goes to her children. Tano, so this Braisa comes along and says, B'nei achais, if a sister inherits a brother, it goes only to her sons, and not to her daughters. What's pshat? What does that mean? Well, why shouldn't the daughters? We learned before that a daughter yash is like if there's no brothers, then if in other words, if her children, if all she has is daughters, then they do yash. It means a question of, we would have, all we know in the Torah is if a father passes away, the son gets first. If no son, then a daughter. How do you know all the other steps of Yerusha? Because, Yerusha goes on till the beginning of time. If there's no brother, you always go down, then up, then sideways. If there's nothing there, you go up further, another generation, grandfather, you go to your great-grandfather, and then you go sideways, and down, then sideways, and then you go up again if there's nobody, and you keep on going. How do you know in every single situation the son always gets before the daughter? How do you know that? And it says Yashning Makish Yerusha Shniya Yerusha Deshaina. That just like Yerusha Deshaina, which is the very first, in line, the person passes away, the first one gets is the children. And then it says only if there's no son, then he goes to the daughter. So that's called Yerusha Deshaina. That's the very first step. And Yerusha Shni is much further down. According to Rashbam, we're talking about like the end. We're talking about the uncles, their children. Over there also, it says the word v'yarash. So we say, Ma Yerusha Deshaina. Just like when by Yerusha Deshaina, Ben Kulabas, the son comes first. Af Yerusha Shni, every step of the way. If it's the uncles, the whoever it is, the great uncles, if that ends up being yashining it, their sons get it first. If there's no sons, then the daughters. Ben Kohen Labas. Okay, that finishes that. Further, Tani, we learned Rabba Bar Chanina, Kamela Nachman, Rabba Bar Chanina is Nachman, the following Braisa. The day that you inherit his children, and we said in the positive, Ace Asher Yeshlei. That's how we know that you only get what he has. This Torah only what he has Yeshlei, only what he has. The Muzik, not in a row. I once heard a beautiful word from a Rav. What do you mean Es Asher Yeshlei that he has? Obviously, you cannot bequeath to your children things you don't have. So what is yes? Let's forget that Gemara's halach of Rav Musik. Said like this. He said people came to told me in America, Rav. He said people came to America and came to Australia from refugees from Eastern Europe, and they all had one thing in mind. I'm going to make sure that I give my children everything I didn't have. I'm sure they're going to have a good education. I'm going to give them a car. I'm going to make sure we fly. We have holidays as they invite. So the trader said, that's all very nice. But what about the things that you did have? You were brought up in a cheder, you had a rebbe, you had a Yiddish house, you kept Shabbos. What about those things? Why don't you give them to your children just as much as you give your children that you didn't have? Anyway, the day you inherit your children, it says by day. What does it say by day? So this is Bryce, and it's a bit cryptic. It sounds like by day you get you bequeath to your children, not at night. So Abai says this Rabbi was there before Rab Nachman. He said Elameata according to this. Usually it's Rabbi before Rab Nachman. You don't have Abai that often there, but Abai was there, and Abai said. Even though on the side here it says must be a mistake. It doesn't have to be a mistake because Rabbi, we know Rabbi learned by Rav Nachman. So why can't it be that Abai was there from time to time? And Abai Punkt happened to be there when this person was saying all the prices. So Abai is saying, if we take it literally, El Miata the Shachir B'Yavam, if a person died by day, who the actually b'nei, then he inherits the children. And Man the Shachir B'Layla, if he died at night, he doesn't bequeath the children. It doesn't make sense. So then Abai says, maybe Dilma, perhaps. Din Nachlas Ka'amre. What he's trying to say here is that Yerusha is not like partners dividing an estate. Yerusha is like a din Torah. And if it's a din Torah, there are rules. We learn from the Goyim that has to be only by day. By day, another part says, so we learn out in Moros and Heden that Chilas Hadin, din has to start by day, but Gemara din can be at night. So can mean what Gemara din. So the Chiddush here is, yeah, exactly. But what we learn from here is that Yerushas is a din is a din Torah. We talk a lot of din Torahs about Yerushas. How many families split up because of Yerushas? Dilma din nachos kam Tanya. We learned. Give it out while you're still alive. No machlekes. The Tanya we learned. Okay, but just quickly, the din is we already had this concept before. Ein eid nasadai. And Gittin, we had Rosh Hashanah, Baba Kama. An aide cannot become we'll have it in Makkah's more. An aide cannot become a judge. Why can't an aide become a judge? So the Rashbam and Taisa in a few places says the two people should stand before the Lifnei Hashem. Lifnei Hashem is referring to the Dayanim. So it's clear you need two groups of people. You need a group of Bezin, you need a group of Eidim. So an aide cannot become a Dayan. The Ri has a Svara. In order for an aid to be kosher aidis, it has to be aidis she'atu yochel hazima, aidis that can be found liars. So if for example, they don't give you a date when this happened, we throw out the aidis because how can they ever be proven wrong when we don't know what they're talking about? Whatever day you'll say that they were with you, they'll say it was some other time. However, so the Ri says if the aidim are the dayanim, and you have to only go to their court to be able to appeal or bring the Eidim Zaymin. They'll never accept Eidim Zaymin. They'll throw it out. They won't accept it. So it's Eidim Shiyat Yochel. Now, my nafkamina, two reasons. Big nafkamina. We'll see in a minute. But so remember, Ein Eid Nasadai. That we learned. It says in Pasuk, "V'hoisel they Yisrael chukas mishpat." It should be to the Eden like a chukas mishpat. In other words, it's treating the Yerusha like a mishpat. Uda kol parsha kula liyas din. The parshas come and teach you that everything about nachlos is like a din Torah. Rav Yehuda said the following din. Three people went to the Vakar Chayla, and now the guy was like a mix Shchiva Rabba mixes, and he's dying. He's not 100% Shchiva Rabba because then he can always change his mind. If he gets better, whatever he said is useless because the whole thing was said, it's obvious because he thought he was dying. Or if he gives everything away, we say that. But if he gives only a part away, whatever he said does go. So we're talking about over here a shchima rabbe mixus. Shloisha shenichlev went to visit a chayla. Rotzu. Now these three people have a choice. Rotzu, if they want, they can act like Eidim Kaiser. They can write down a star and act like Eidim. Testify. This is what Yeruven said. He's giving this to this. This is are his distributions. But Rotzu, but if they prefer Eisendin, they can act like a Bezdin and paskin that this is how it is. And in other words, you can have a choice. You're either an aid or you're a business. It can't be both. No. He told them, I want to give this son, I want to give X, this one, this. They can just pass it, okay, that's it. And put a gestemmt, give them one, a gushbukang, a gushbanka, and that's it. If there were only two people, the Kais, they can't be Bezin, obviously. So they just write down like Adam. When do we say you have a choice? If it's daytime, because by day you could be a bezin. By night you cannot be a bezin. That's what would bring a raya here. That dini nachlis is like a bezdin. When you pass, all you're doing is distribution. So you could have thought it's like partnerships. Partners, they're breaking up, dissolving a partnership. You get this, I'll get that. No. We're saying this is a din taita, and therefore you cannot do it at night. So when do we say rotzu? When do you have a choice? Only by day, not by night. My time with the havle edim. That night you're edim. No, so why can by day paskin based on what they saw? The einay nasa dayin. Almost so maybe that's what pshat over here is when it says it by day, not at night. At night you cannot be. You don't have a choice of becoming a bezin. That's what I mean. Big machlek is in the Rishonim. Like 3 or 4 different shittas, but Bekitzer, the Rashbam holds if somebody wants to be, if you went to see something as an aid, or here talking about they were maybe invited, it's even worse, then you automatically have a din of an aid. Even though you didn't go to Bezin to say anything, you're an aid, you can never become a dai. When do we say that you have a choice? You weren't called in, you weren't summoned, you just happened to be Mivakar Chayla. You had no intention of coming to hear his last will and testament. You came to Mivakar Chayla and turned out to be that the person is on his deathbed. He's a gesis and he's saying these things. So then you have a choice of being an aid or not being an aid. So what's the Rashbam Chiddush? As soon as you have a kavana to be an aid, you already have a chalais of an aid. And you cannot be a dai. That's one Chiddush of the Rashbam. And the other Chiddush of the Rashbam is, but even so, I want to be an aid. I cannot be a dain on my aides. But if somebody else from that same event, 4 or 5 guys were there, come into me and tell me what they saw, even though I heard it myself. But I cannot paskin based on what I heard. But I could paskin on this very matter based on what I hear from somebody else. And in both respects, the big machlekes were showing. Regarding number 2, traces hold no such thing. If ain't nasa dying, you cannot be a dying at all. You have to disqualify, recuse yourself, regardless if somebody else says it to you or not. And the other part, which is the big problem, is they say traces holds, and it's all based on makas above. Traces holds that just because you went to see an aid doesn't make you an aid. When are you aid? Only if you went to Bezin and testified. The Gemara says there, Rabbi says above the Lemerzi Asisu, did you come to see? Or La Asidu Asisu, you came to testify. So Taisa, yes, but it's only if you go afterwards to court. And the big naf community is when it comes to, as Taisa says there, and over here, and the rich over there, and all the shit. How by a chuppah, all these relatives are standing there. If everybody's standing there, they think they want to go home and tell their wife what I saw, or whatever it is they want to tell her. I saw that. I want to be a witness. I want to tell people what I saw. Then they according to Rashbam, you're an aid. But amongst all the aides, it ruins everything. So Taisa, the Kohen is not a problem. Because even if you saw you want to be an aid, and even if Rashbam is right that you're an aid, but it's only if you go later to court, then it's retrospective from the time that you saw. But when is the chalais, what's the trigger? You have to go to Bezdin. If you don't go to Bezdin, no problem.
Isn't there a chiyuv to give aides? If you know aides for someone withhold it.
Even though there's no other agent, you're the only one who can go there. But there's other agent, what do you have to go for? And number 1, number 2, there's no dispute here that you have to go for. Why are you going? And according to the Rashbam, that's why you have to say Atameida, including everything else. And we'll talk more about the Markaz Abba and Aleph. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.